is going on, humans of the show? We named the show. Did we name the show? Yeah. It's How to Grow, right?
Yes.
How to Grow. Welcome back to How to Grow. Clap, 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 everybody. Woo! Thank you, Matthias. We are here today with the always handsome, lovely, wonderful, intelligent Mr. Alexander.
How are you?
From Weekdone. I'm doing all right. I'm excited to chat. And Matthias Marcus, who is now qualified to be in the booth.
Woohoo!
Woo! Shout out to Matthias for graduating university. What's your degree?
It's in the humanitarian field. And
Really?
yeah, it is.
I
Actually,
didn't know that.
yesterday I found it out myself as well. So,
Huh.
but audiovisual media. So now I can work with audio and video together.
Whoa, you're qualified. Nice.
So
No-
that's why we are recording with cameras as well, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, this is a case study for Matthias' degree. Yeah, so there's a professional in the room, Alexander. You don't have to worry about any workplace injuries or anything like that. But yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit about you, about Weekdone, about marketing. The idea behind this show is that we kind of bring people some actionable advice, stories that they can take and grow a team or a startup or a company or whatever it might be. And maybe you want to talk a little bit about your humble origins. What's the story behind why do you think I brought you here today?
Okay, so to go to the beginning, then I actually have never studied marketing.
Nice.
What I studied in the university was public relations and journalism, with very strong emphasis on the public relations part.
Wow.
And I was absolutely sure that this is what I want to do with my life. And so after having studied for 1 year, being 19 years old,
Yeah.
and arrogant enough and confident in myself enough, like young people often are, I decided that I have studied enough to start my own PR agency or start consulting companies full time.
Mm-hmm.
That did not work out well in the end. This company no longer exists. But I would say that those 2 years that I was still in the university, I was trying my hand in what then I didn't know the word, but now I would use the word startup. Really sort of gave me the foundation and, understanding how to approach my life and later marketing and the whole startup scene.
Yeah.
So the thing in there was that I knew nothing.
Yeah.
I had no idea how to find customers. I wasn't sure what we are selling, why we were selling it, and what our long-term goal was, other than, saying that, hey, I'm a CEO.
Yeah.
So 2 years in a slowly failing startup or running a slowly failing startup really helped me get over a lot of those arrogance issues and
A little bit humbling.
And it was really humbling because in retrospect, I can say I did 3 mistakes. First of all, I didn't understand the value of what I was offering. For those few customers that we did manage to find, we sold ourselves so cheap that it probably would have been, more productive for me to sit at home and watch Netflix. Second of all, I had no idea how to set long-term goals or measure them, meaning that, it was just moving from day to day, hoping that maybe we'll get another customer who gives us very little money. And third, it really sort of helped me understand how to approach conflict, how to, make tough decisions, because I approach all of those things wrong.
Yeah.
Which means that inevitably when the money ran out that we were using, I would say that all that I got out of it was sort of 2 years schooling on how not to do business.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very happy about this lesson, because if I had made those mistakes later, I don't know, I would probably work in fast food or something by now.
Yeah.
And so after that, for years, I actually didn't want to do anything, that has anything to do with management.
Mm-hmm.
I decided, okay, I can be a specialist. I can, learn something, do stuff. And this is the sort of moment that I landed in Weekdone, where I have been working for 4 years. And in Weekdone, I work in marketing.
Yeah.
But it's important to understand that 4 years ago, when I got there, I knew nothing about marketing.
Yeah.
I probably had heard the word startup, but I had no idea about what startup is, what's the community in Estonia, what's the community in Silicon Valley, or anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I must say that our Weekdone CEO and our then head of marketing were very, very patient with me, and they spent a lot of their time and energy sort of whipping me into shape, giving me time to study, learn all of these things, and in general shape me into what I am today. So for that I'm eternally grateful.
Nice. I want to cut you off really quick because first I think it's really important to recognize I have so much respect for you for having I think there's all of these celebrations in maybe the startup ecosystem or the business ecosystem in general for the guys who, get the TechCrunch article.
Yeah.
When a startup dies, typically they don't do it loud and heroically.
Yeah.
They kind of you just kind of stop hearing from them and they disappear. And I have so much respect for how difficult that must have been for you.
This. I was thinking this morning. I have never spoken about this PR startup ever. Most of my friends now or friends who I made later don't know much about it.
Yeah, man. I think it's like a valuable story, and I think there's probably a lot of lessons you learned there that are valuable. The one you mentioned about underpricing yourself, I think, is one that's this is like the plague of the freelancer industry. Is you have a lot of people who are typically creative, who are also typically really empathetic and maybe don't understand the value of what they do or aren't like the pushy business guy type. And then they don't know that you can charge $100,000 for a logo kind of thing.
Are you talking about me a year ago?
Well, that's like when you work for free completely.
Yeah. Well, but it's so weird because in the film industry, there is kind of a setting that you must work for free before you do actually anything.
Yeah.
This is it's very common understanding, but it's also a very wrong one, because now I think that each thing a person does should have value, and the person should be compensated for that value. And if you're doing something that really has no value, then why the hell are you doing it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is something I'm gonna get into later a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Because.
Yeah, not to derail you, keep going on Weekdone.
Oh yeah. So, well, that was sort of the personal aspect of it. But when talking about Weekdone, for those who don't know, it's let's say startup, and quite successful startup, but not in the common sense that you usually hear about startup success. Because generally the story to hear are that, startup raised 50 million euros and hired 200 new people.
Yeah.
And usually what they don't say in those stories is that, but they're, losing 2 million per year on loss.
Mm-hmm.
So the founders of Weekdone, and I'm, not one of them, had a little different approach in mind. What they did was they raised a little money, but the sum is so small that it wouldn't come up on any charts.
Yeah.
And they decided that, okay, we're going to get this thing profitable, and then we're going to grow in the same base as our revenue. Meaning, you increase your revenue by, let's say, 3,000 euros, you can hire another person, and so on and so on. And so I think since I came to Weekdone, we have been cash flow positive month to month for 4 years in a row. Yeah, well, it's not something like, we get another €1 million every 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
So the numbers are so much smaller, which makes it a lot less interesting.
Yeah.
But why I really like it, that as an employee, I've always had the job security of, a random corporation with all the culture and perks of working in a startup scene. And this sort of gradual growth also does wonders for the team you're putting together.
Yeah.
Because, well, let's say that, I'll go raise 10 million euros and hire 100 people. No way can they follow up with the culture, with the values, and all the things that as a founder you think that should be in your company.
Yeah.
But in Weekdone, as there's usually sort of months between new people come in, we have all the time to make sure that, they follow our culture code, they understand why we're doing stuff, how we do it.
Yeah.
And that means that, 4 years ago I was employee number 5 or 6 at that time.
Yeah.
Now we have more than twice of that. Of course, some people have left.
Yeah.
But those people who are here are all following the same values that I saw 4 years ago. So for me personally, I think Weekdone is one of the most successful companies in Estonia, but not in this traditional sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think Estonia, I don't know, there's been a couple of companies now, like Weekdone is one, which is maybe in the news less, but then there's even Toggle, who has been completely bootstrapped. Yeah, I think it's super cool. It gives you a lot of time. Once you're profitable and you're not burning you don't have some exponential increase in burn rate or some horrible thing happens, you have the time to lay those foundations in place, like in your case, like the ones you brought up, our culture and the having the right people and whatever, which means if Weekdone, whether or not they decide to scale to be like the huge whatever Uber of OKRs or whatever, if they do decide to do that, then they have a really strong foundation of people and culture and product and customer and market fit and so on.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I would also say that this sort of system, especially done here in Estonia, compared to doing it in US, it's sort of, well, first of all, it's cheaper, but second of all, it's it gives a constant positive image to the outside world that we are doing things here that we can be sure we'll be doing in a year from now as well. We won't be bankrupted in 3 months because we overextended ourselves, or the third round of our funding didn't go through. And that is a very positive thing. But then going on to what Weekdone actually does, because I forgot to mention that. So Weekdone is a company that offers weekly reporting and quarterly goal setting tools for companies. So it's a software as a service enterprise. And we use and promote objectives and key results methodology, which has been made very famous lately by Google using it. But it's also, popular in in the entire tech world, Twitter, Spotify, Amazon, all those companies are using or have used OKRs at some point. And but it's not just a tech thing. You can use OKRs in agricultural company. You can use it running government.
Running yourself, I feel like.
Well, yes, your personal OKRs can be used very effectively. There is this story that in one of our customers, there is this CEO who uses personal OKRs to measure how much wine she consumes every quarter. So why not? And before I started working in Weekdone, I actually, when I was, applying and testing out the product, used Weekdone with my girlfriend on setting up our home life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean...
How much wine you drink?
No. But it was more like, when let's set a goal. It's
Yeah.
something inspirational. The goal is to be happier at the end of the quarter than you are now.
Nice.
So and then you set those measurable key results. What do you have to do for that?
And that's very cool.
Well, we did it for like 2 months. Then I got hired. And
Yeah.
when I have it at work, then it.
You don't want it at home too.
I don't need it at home. But
Yeah.
basically, this is how it works.
Mm-hmm.
The OKR system is, I would say, it's simple to you sort of understand in theory.
Mm.
At the same time, it's very, very difficult to set it up right. And in my experience, 90% of companies fail using OKRs.
Yeah.
So the system is simple. You have an objective,
Mm-hmm.
which is quarterly, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And this objective should be very inspirational.
Mm-hmm.
It's not number-based. It's, this thing, where do we want to go?
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing a startup in
Yeah, let's set up a hypothetical one.
Okay,
Let's
so-
say like I'm selling, I don't know, I'm selling cameras
Okay.
for filming virtual reality
Okay.
zoo tours.
Okay, let's say you also make the cameras.
I also make the cameras,
Okay.
of course.
And, let's say you're a Canadian startup
Ooh,
with
good call.
best new
CEO.
cameras that should be used worldwide.
Okay, gotcha.
So you know that you have the best cameras. No one else knows it. So
That's a problem already.
that's a problem already. You're starting out. You have, let's say, raised $100 billion.
That's a lot.
Well, so we're not,
Gotcha. We're not
tied down
limited.
on that.
Yeah.
So, and then you start setting your goals, and well, of course, it's not doable in 3 months. But let's say you want to be the most used camera seller in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, this is all your employees understand that goal. It's very inspirational. We're going to be the best in the world.
Yeah.
But then you walk into your office and you start thinking, okay, how do we get there?
Mm-hmm.
And this is now where the key results come in. Because for each objective you set, you have to set 3 to 5 measurable key results.
Okay.
And, well, in our example, let's say, first of all, you know that if you want to be the best in the world, you need to improve those cameras a little.
Yeah.
So for your product team, it can be, the key results can be, come up with an advanced prototype that does filming 10% faster.
Yeah.
Why not? For your manufacturing, increase the general effectiveness of your factory by 20% to produce more stuff. Both of those are very good, numeric things that you can always look at them and say, okay, we have
We're
improved or
progressing
we're
there,
not.
yeah.
For your legal team even, you can use OKRs and say that, okay, you need to come to the European market.
Yeah.
And for your legal team, this could be finish writing our documentation 100% so it goes with European law or GDPR.
Mm-hmm.
And for a marketing team, the goal can be, take part in 20 big conferences or expos where to support your thing. And the general idea with this system is that, that those key results you need to measure each week.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go in, let's say it's Friday evening and you're going to see what you did this week, and you're going to look at your key hours, and if you can't move them forward, you have wasted a week. And you might feel that, damn, that was a really hard week. I had these meetings and we had these ideas and this all, some new ideas, wonderful. But if you can't say how it affects your key hour, then you wasted your time.
That's aggressive. I like it.
It keeps very strong focus.
Yeah, it's pragmatic.
There's this thing or theory called 80-20 rule. Do you know it?
A little bit, yeah.
So 80-20 rule says that 80% of your results come from 20% of work.
Yeah.
I'm very often using the OKRs
Mm-hmm.
to understand what is this 20% of my work that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm a very lazy person, I usually don't do the 80% of work at all.
Yeah.
The one that doesn't help me move forward.
Focus on the 20.
Yeah, and that sort of first of all, it keeps employee focused. It gives a management overview where we are, and it sort of make sure everyone in your team, in your department, in your company understand how their work affects each other.
Yeah.
Because
and what they're contributing to kind of the greater. Yeah.
And there's another aspects of OKRs that some companies have trouble with. This is that OKRs for everyone, let's say you're using it on all the company, team, and personal level,
Mm-hmm.
they're all public.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm the manual laborer in your camera factory, I must see your CEO's OKRs
Mm-hmm.
and see how you progress through it. And this is often a hard selling point to companies, because there are a lot of managers out there who don't like that kind of transparency.
Yeah.
So
I wonder why.
Yeah. But
it seems like it would be an incredibly motivating thing for an employee too, because you're really like, even if you're just the ability to start cutting out some of that 80%, it's just so, when you have those small victories every day, like, hey, I pushed the needle, like my personal goals are moving forward all the time. That's really motivating. I think that's what probably turns people into great employees or great leaders.
Yeah, but this is also where the problems start coming in, because, as I said, it's very hard methodology to master.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, no goal setting technique works if 99% of your people are using it.
Yeah.
As a CEO, you can set all the goals, but if your employers think that updating them every Friday is a waste of time, the system will never work. I have spent a lot of my time over the last 4 years, sort of trying to get to a point where I understand and can sell is a bad word, but explain to people what is the personal benefits they get out of this system. And the other thing is, it's we did it, very randomly, but actually it's very hard to set good key results for a company.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing it for the first time. And with OKRs, I think you have to use it for 3 quarters at least before you see the benefit and know how to set those goals. And
that's a long cycle, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of companies fail at the first 3 months just because they set bad goals, or they couldn't sell it to their employees.
Mm-hmm.
But in my experience, those companies who do stick with it, who do get it in, let's say, 9 months, they're gonna see the benefits for years to come.
Do you have any good stories about this that you can share? Even without names, maybe you have like one that was particularly remarkable turnaround, maybe.
I don't know our clients' numbers, so it's very hard. One thing, I usually don't recommend this book, but a year ago, John Doerr, one of the first investors of Google, shared his book called Measure What Matters, which is full of inspirational stories of how it was used in Google, Microsoft, and companies like that.
Yeah.
The problem with that book is that it's very, how would I put it, American. It gives you the good stories, but if you read this book, and you think, okay, now I really want to go and try out the OKRs.
You don't have the knowledge to do it.
You think you have the knowledge, but in practice you don't.
Okay, yeah.
So this book was published about a year ago, and the interest in OKRs grew very, very fast after that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the amount of time we had to spend on explaining people how to do OKRs right in Weekdone, that also increased a lot more.
Yeah.
Even so. So I'm very thankful that this book exists, but no one should think they know how to set OKRs after reading them.
Maybe you should reach out and write Measure What Matters Part 2 by Alexander.
Actually, last year I did write the book called Objectives and Key Results, the book.
Yeah,
Very
you've written a
ambitious
couple
name.
books on this. Right?
Yeah, I've also written a step-by-step guide of OKRs that is sort of beginner's book.
Mm-hmm.
But Objectives and Key Results, the book is actually written with those people in mind who have read John Doerr and know what the system is.
Yeah.
It's sort of, okay, how do I now implement it? How do I get it? And both of those books are very easily findable in Google.
Yeah.
Because I think Step by Step is still available in Amazon, and
Nice.
OKR, Objectives and Key Results, the book has its own web page that should come up if you Google it.
Onto that, actually, and a little bit maybe into a case study of OKRs. I think you personally actually are, I mean, you guys have seen huge success, especially in, if you Google anything about OKRs, you'd have to sift through the Weekdone links in order to find Alexander's book, probably, because you guys are dominating on this front. Maybe you can talk a little bit about like how you think about marketing and your specialty at Weekdone, because you guys are killing it in this sense, I think.
Weekdone, I would say, has had a consistent content-based marketing strategy from day one.
Yeah.
And these decisions were made long before I got there, so I can't take credit of any of that. It's more of our founder's vision.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that from day one, Weekdone has focused hard on this Google SEO and increasing our organic reach, combined with getting our articles and ideas published in external publications, and from today also in podcast apparently.
Yeah.
But before before going into that, there's maybe the most important thing about marketing, and especially for me as well, is the question, why do you do marketing? What's the point of marketing? What's the point of content marketing? I would put it like that. I was hired as a content marketer to write blogs and books and do all that stuff. But my job is not actually to write blogs and stuff.
Yeah.
Content marketing job is to generate leads for the company that generate money.
Yeah.
So this is how you have to measure it.
This is a little known fact about marketing, I think.
Well, yeah, there are, I have spoken with a lot of young content marketers who are like, so I had a great day. I wrote the blog post and we put it up and I shared it on Facebook, and that's cute, but where's the money?
Yeah. That's
so
cute.
Well,
dropping bombs.
I could take my laptop, write, 1,000 words in 2 hours, put it up in our blog. Tomorrow morning it would have been one page view, and that would have been from me. And I've wasted, 2 hours of my employer's time.
And your life,
and my life as well. So, this has been very strong in Weekdone as well. It's all about the numbers. There's no point in doing anything if it doesn't give you, direct results. Whether it's stuff sold in your e-shop, whether it's sign-ups for your startup, and not even sign-ups, let's say paying customers, exactly. And so content marketing is not about being the first in the Google search results. Content marketing is about those people who come through those search results, register on your site and pay the bill.
Yeah.
Because even if I go with this idea that I have to be first at Google, if I'm on first at the wrong keyword, it will not generate the right customers. And ever since I've been in Weekdone, we have basically measured everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel we have measured too much, but as years go by, I understand more what's the point of it? And this also goes into this 80-20 rule and avoiding fake work.
Yeah.
So when we talk about content marketing, and then the actions that are done in there are blog posts, ebooks, mini site and campaigns, stuff like that. But it's never like so that I go to the office and I think, I think what our company needs is another book on OKRs.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking, okay, first of all, what do our customers want? Like, what are the needs of our customers?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you figured out what are the numeric values of what we want to achieve,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say it's one new customer,
Yeah.
then the next step is talking about your existing customers to find out what is the right medium for this content you're producing,
Mm-hmm.
and only then can you start thinking, should it be a book, should it be a big blog post, should it be a learning center or a new website or whatever.
Yeah.
And so when I do marketing campaigns, and basically I try to call every marketing action, every blog post a campaign.
Okay.
Then first I say, okay, this has to do that. For instance, I can say that, okay, I need a blog post that generates 200 new unique users
Mm-hmm.
on the first day of publishing to increase the blog readership by X%, that converts into X% of new signups, that converts to X% of paying customers. And before I even start, this blog post, I do this other document, this sort of project brief, which says, okay, my goal is to get 200 people. I'm going to measure it tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock.
So you're basically running like an experimentation cycle on every article almost. At least you follow the methodology of running an experiment at least.
Yeah, because otherwise I very often I can write this blog post, put it up and forget about it.
Yeah.
And if you check on it half a year later, it still has those one or two page views.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's enough noise in the internet already.
Yeah. I have a question about this, if I can derail you a little bit. When it comes to content stuff, a lot of the time, like something like SEO might take 6 months. I've heard of 3 years, like it taking to start paying off. How do you measure in the short term in order to make predictions for the long term if you're doing stuff like content marketing so often? Obviously, you guys now are like, you can kind of say, okay, this worked in the past, maybe this is repeatable. But maybe if you're earlier, how would you go about that?
This is actually, very, very complicated area, I would say, because in marketing, and this is solely from marketing perspective, it is true that, a lot of good things take time.
Yeah.
For instance, I think in Weekdone blog, the most read article was a 300 words thing mashed up on right keywords 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Nothing I have written over the time has topped that as the first.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's, just so good and probably took 2 minutes to write.
Yeah.
So when you're working in marketing, and you always have to balance your things. One is this long game, getting this article out that will help your SEO 3 months down the road, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
But the other thing is you also have to do these things that, you can show that I did this today and here are the results tomorrow.
It contributed to my, Yeah,
because I'm still running on those OKR system, which is quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
So increase in SEO 6 months down the road doesn't really help me with that.
Yeah.
So it's a question about balancing those small things you can do today, like, share an article on a popular Reddit, get hundreds of upvotes and generate 1,000 new people on your site.
Yeah.
And it's also, those long tail keywords that you pick out, write a really good article on.
And wait.
And, well, no, not wait. but that will give you the results later.
Mm-hmm.
This actually is when people think about content marketing, you think about writing those stuff, but as you can understand from what I'm saying, this is the pointless and easy part of the job.
Yeah.
I think 90% of content marketing is distributing the content you have.
Yeah.
And
you mentioned this to us before, actually. This is interesting.
Well, it comes down to, you might write the next Harry Potter, but if no one reads it, then
or knows it exists, even, yeah.
Because, Harry Potter is a very good example because, I think 6 or 7 companies rejected the script when J.K. Rowling first offered it to him. I'm pretty sure that these negotiations with 7 companies can take more time than writing one book.
Yeah.
So most of my time is actually spent on distribution, and I'm not an expert in ads. I'm not the expert in paid advertisement. What I have sort of tried to perfect for myself is doing this so-called free media.
Yeah.
Which of course isn't free because it's the time I spend on it.
Yeah.
And basically when I started with it, I sort of wanted to put together a checklist of 15 things that you have to do after you publish an article.
Okay.
Starting from, the obvious, put it in social media, offer it to some news site. But then you start thinking, what else can you do? And when you get to like 5 or 6, and then you're out of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
What I did is I started Googling the problem and reading through everything until I found out that I've reached articles written in 2009, which means long before anything that's used today existed.
Yeah.
And I got this very long document of ideas.
Yeah.
It had some stuff that you don't use, and I think it recommended sharing your content in Orkut groups or MySpace. So then I knew that now I've taken all the ideas that are out there. And for a month or 2, basically I tried one idea each day, and then saw if it had any effect on the daily unique views.
Okay.
Most of it didn't.
Okay.
But this sort of ended with me putting together this 15-item list.
Mm-hmm.
And now I say that if I publish any article on blog or on some external site or entrepreneur where I contribute regularly,
Mm-hmm.
if I don't do at least 75% of that list, the article doesn't count.
Okay.
It doesn't matter how good it is. It doesn't matter how much time I spent on it.
If you don't distribute it, it doesn't count.
Exactly.
Huh.
And this sort of, keeps me in line because if I have already spent, let's say, 3-4 hours on writing something, then I don't want to later say that, but that doesn't count. So I'm, of course, going to do the hard part as well.
Huh.
So
is that list? Have you published that somewhere, by the way?
No.
That 15. Is that top secret? Secret info.
It's not top secret, but as I use it when I do some freelance work as well.
Okay.
So it's sort of a trade secret.
I get you.
But I mean, the things in that list are not very hard. Well, some of them are, but most are just things that you know.
Grinding.
Yeah. One thing that I'm removing from that list this month, because I'm working with softwares and business to business, is actually social media.
Oh, really?
I don't think, more often than not, when you're writing in a business section, it's not worth the 2 minutes it takes for you to publish it on Facebook.
Huh.
Especially when, of course, if I want to use ads or something like sponsored content, then definitely.
Yeah.
But when we're talking completely, free media, then it's not worth the time.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to have some sort of like additional pull there, like
Yeah.
just to publish the link, especially now on stuff like Facebook is quite rough. I think like what we've seen success with is like video content on Facebook still does really well. People are still like surprised if you put out a high quality piece of video because there's so much saturation of garbage. But I would agree that I think links, just pasting a link is definitely not.
Well, it sort of is this my communication background that I understand the field I'm working in, but I try to avoid increasing the general noise level because this is, terrible anyway. So if I publish something and spend time distributing it, I personally have to be certain that it has some value to the outside world. I have a very, very big part of my Google Drive that's full of half drafts and even finished articles that I think that they are not giving anything to anyone.
Yeah, I understand. You mentioned trade secrets earlier. I realize now that this conversation is probably going to turn a little bit into like how to scale writing and content marketing. And you mentioned 3 specific, actually I think you mentioned them already today too, are books, mini sites, and long form articles. 3 specific types of content that you think probably most people should be making.
Well, starting with the easiest, when it comes to blog content, I think the emphasis should be on, in those really, really longer articles that have very, those ultimate guides, detailed how-to pages with a lot of examples. Few weeks ago, I wrote an article on internal communications that was a little bit longer than my first book.
Yeah, you were.
So I think this sort of content has a stronger chance to sort of get ranking, get shared, get those page views that you're going for probably in a blog.
Yeah.
And the book format is another this sort of book form is basically the same thing, formatted differently and with some illustrations, hopefully.
Maybe distributed a little differently behind like this email gate kind of thing.
Yeah. And you can, why I like books is that you can, do more stuff in distribution.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of journalists who are always happy to, when I send them my book, but if I start spamming them with my blog post, I would be blocked very, very quickly. And I think I've written 3 books so far.
Can't keep track.
No, I mean,
I think
I have been writing about OKRs for 4 years.
Yeah,
so
I get you.
I sort of have lost track on how much content, but I think it's 3 books so far, and even the books that I wrote 2 or 3 years ago are still getting this sort of downloads.
Yeah.
With the first book that we did, step-by-step guide on OKRs, or first book I did, Weekdone had some before. As a sort of experiment, we put it up to sale on Amazon, thinking that maximum what we get is some recognition from Google search. It is still bought every month, all over the world, and we are really surprised about that.
That's cool.
But for books, I usually do like month or 2-month distribution campaign with a full content calendar that has stuff like, send it to your friends for review, publish it in there, write 5 blog posts promoting it, and so on and so on. And I set a specific key result for the end of that content period. So let's say it can be, generate 10,000 downloads in the first 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And when it's done, then I'm no longer distributing it. I'm going to look at the number. If it's 9,900, then I failed.
0 or 1, fail or success?
Yeah, I tried to, it's a complicated thing, you know.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, OKR can be looked at differently.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
In OKRs, you can, you know, the measurable results. I know Google uses 0 to 1 scale.
Oh, they do. Okay.
But they also use, you know, you can have like 0.9 or 0.7.
Yeah, 0.78 is kind of the ideal, I think, in their case, right?
But there are some leaders who go with you either did it or you did not.
Interesting.
And personally, this is not something I like, because if you get like 0.9, then you don't want to say that the result was 0.
Yeah, and if you get get 100%, you don't want to be done with your job. Then I guess I can walk out the office now. Yeah.
Well, with OKRs, coming back to it for a moment, I forgot to mention that with OKRs, you have to set the goal so high that if you achieve 0.7 or 70%, then this is a normal result. If you get 100 result, it was probably too low an objective. So, or you're, you know, Superman. But probably the first one. So with those campaigns as well, if I'll see where I am. And then I generally, you know, move to the next campaign. But those e-books especially, I can still see every month that, you know, we have a new paying customer who started from reading that book or something like that.
So let's go through how other people maybe could replicate a similar process. So let's go back to our cameraman, for example. We're going to write a book about how to take the dopest pictures with this camera.
Well, probably, you know, you're selling those, you have to think about who you're selling those cameras to. So...
old men,
okay. Well, so old men don't read downloadable ebooks.
Let's do young men. All right.
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, first thing, look at your existing customers. What do they need? Okay, then you might make a sort of research and find out that 10 out of your 20 existing customers love downloading ebooks or infographics.
Got it.
Okay, so from that you can decide, okay, we need like 20 new customers. Generally, they like reading ebooks and they like infographics. So first thing you do, you hire a designer to do those infographics for you. You sort of put together this thing, let's call it the book, with pictures, texts, you know, anything you might think those customers might need, based on those existing customer interviews.
So you actually do the interview research process before you make the content. That's cool.
Well, one of the values we have is that, or internal values, is that everyone in our company has to understand the customer. Some of us listen in on sales demos or trainings. I do a lot of interviews with existing customers and run our case study page. So before writing anything, or you know, the first question is, does the customer need it? If it does, then from that you can sort of put together a piece of content that you think is valuable to the customer. And you think it's good enough to get this goal that you have set for yourself. And then comes the hard part. You have to decide how you're going to distribute it.
Okay, so let's say we check the box. Our young male camera people they just want info on how to make amateur movies real cheap, all right, with this camera. So we made this epic, action-packed 25-30 page little ebook, and it's nicely designed. There's an infographic even inside to get those, you know, infographic lovers to download. Then how do we drive people there? What's distribution look like?
Well, it starts with a plan. A plan has to be 100% done before your launch date.
Got it.
And what I like to do is to have this sort of calendar where I have, you know, what I'm going to do each day of the week. So, and for ebooks, I usually try to write 4 or 5 blog posts. I try to write about it in Quora. That's one of my favorite channels.
Yeah? Okay.
I already have a list of the Quora questions where I could talk about it beforehand in the plan. Same way I have probably my media list with all the journalists or people who might find it interesting. Not spamming like everyone in national
journalist on LinkedIn. Yeah.
But a specific list that I know have written about something or deal with something like that, and so on. I also have a long list of personal acquaintances and friends who I'm going to send it to and ask their opinion.
Yeah.
Some of them might be influencers who might write about it in their blog, but and then as I mentioned, I have blog posts that promote it, and then each of those blog posts has to be distributed as well.
Okay.
Because as I said, blog post doesn't matter if you don't distribute it.
Okay.
So it's sort of
stacking principles here.
Yeah. Because the fact that the blog post is part of a campaign doesn't mean that it's not
standalone
as well. Sometimes you want to do a mini site, bestphotographybook.com or something like that. And then you're gonna use the same sort of content calendar type of thing to distribute this thing. Yeah. And if you have made the plan well, if you know who you're gonna send the emails to, if you have the email templates written, if you know what you're gonna post in Quora, what you're gonna do in, let's say, Reddit, or for cameras, there's probably a lot of forums and web pages where and Slack channels where people like that talk with each other. If you know all that, then the campaign itself is just doing a checklist. You're gonna go to work, say, okay, I'm gonna send an email to this person, this person, this person. Done. Moving on, next thing, and so on and so on. So
it's a lot about prep.
It's all about prep.
Yeah.
Because I try to do this sort of distribution plans so that the computer could do them. So it's
cool,
activity, and then it's done. Activity, then it's done. Of course, you have to react. You have to, you get the answers to these emails. You get comments, and
there's some sort of follow-up.
Yeah, and this is, obvious part. But the distribution itself has to be always, 100% thought through. Yeah. So that you also are 100% sure that these are the things that most likely will get me to my result. Yeah. And this is very easily scalable, because actually they are same principle for one blog post, ebook campaign, or a global launch of a product. Yeah. And you can do it with a one-man marketing master, or you can do it with a 30-person team.
Yeah, it's kind of especially hearing when you lay out the methodology like this, it makes me question why some people aren't doing more. Maybe even why we're not scaling this out better and better. When it's I guess it's maybe a learning process, but
well, it's definitely a learning process. But it's more about this idea that your job is not to produce that content. Yeah. Your job is to get people to do something, follow your call to action. And one reason why I have built it up like that is also that I am a really lazy person. I don't want to do work that will not bring anything.
I think being lazy and having discipline are probably like a superpower when you put them together, though.
Yeah, probably, because luckily our company really supports it. So I don't spend my time from 9 to 6 to the office where I can where I have to be. Yeah. And I think when I had worked like 3 or 4 months, our CEO told us that if you can do your job with 2 hours on a Monday morning, then good. Well, obviously you have too little work. Yeah. But basically, if you can get the results you need from a week, and they are not set low, then it doesn't matter how much time it takes. Yeah. And I have tried to live by those with this rule the entire time I've been there.
Yeah.
And I've also used the same thing when I do freelancing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna, go to a company and say, I can write this blog post for you with 6 hours. I'm gonna say that, okay, I'm gonna write it in 1 hour and then spend 2 hours distributing it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bill you for 6 hours,
Yeah.
but you're probably gonna get a better result than when you take someone who thinks that the job is writing a blog post.
For 6 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's very cool. And on the topic of writing blog posts, I'm pretty excited to hear this secretive writing methodology that's actually based on a video game, as I understand.
Yeah.
So just to be clear about how many pieces of content do you feel you've written between what you've published, what you haven't published, what you've written maybe for other people in the last 4 years since you started at Weekdone?
Oh boy. Well, it's some blog posts are 300 words, and then there's this 40,000, 50,000 articles.
Yeah.
I can confidently say that I've written more than 400 articles with more than 1,000 words.
And that's
over the
not
forest.
including the books and
No,
the mini sites and the
not including the mini sites.
yeah.
And
And
in the
emails.
beginning, I sort of when I was beginning out in this thing, I felt that writing a good articles is 2 days work.
Yeah.
You first have to come up with an idea, then you write the draft, then you maybe have some writer's block, and then you have to continue.
Yeah.
Then it's edited, then you have to fix everything in it, and then you can send it to a real editor.
Yeah.
So, when I thought that if I write 2 articles per week, like 700, 800 words,
Yeah.
they're good articles, then I'm doing fine.
Has that been pretty much your average for the last 4 years, 2 articles a week?
Well, it was for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
because 2 years ago I was playing this computer game called The Darkest Dungeon, which is pretty much, it's a role-playing game where you have to constantly level up new heroes and send them to their deaths, which are a painful
Okay.
experience. And so I started thinking, well, I actually don't know how I got to writing, but my problem then was that how to improve the efficiency of content marketing.
Okay.
And playing that game, I discovered that it's easier to get 4 computer characters to level 1 at the time, and then all to level 2 and so on, and getting 1 from 1 to 5, and then the next one and the next one. So what I thought was that, okay, let's put it into writing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that I know that in the next month I have to write 30 articles on something I don't know anything about. Let's say artificial intelligence.
Got it.
Okay, how would I approach it? First of all, of course, when I start this month, I need a few days to catch up, learn about the subject, come up with some ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I would do, I would open 10 documents at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and day 1, come up with, headings or sort of topics for 10 articles.
Mm.
And that takes an hour or 2 hours maybe,
Yeah.
and that's it for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Second day, I'm gonna
I love this already.
take 5 of those articles,
Mm.
of those 10s that already have headings,
Mm-hmm.
and write the first 100 words.
Okay.
And then I would also take some new article and put on the heading.
Mm-hmm.
Day 3, for some articles I write the heading, for some the first 100 word, for some the second 100 words.
Mm-hmm.
And you see where this is going.
Yeah, you're just laddering. This
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense to me as far as kind of how the human brain works even.
Yeah.
It
Well,
just
it's assembly line,
yeah.
because starting from maybe, well, I said that I write 100 words. I actually have a specific template that I'm using. First stage, the second stage, the problem, then there's the solution, then I'm gonna add some examples, then I'm gonna do the call to action, and so on and so on. And basically what happens is that from one point the system gives you out one full article per day minimum. And writing like that, I spend less than 3 hours per day writing.
Wow. And how many articles do you think you could do on artificial intelligence in a month if you had to?
Give me first 2 days to get started, to learn about the subject and come up with the topics. And then basically, the first week is sort of warm up when no articles are ready. And that gives us 3 weeks where every day a new article would come out.
I'm making notes. Say that I'm making
we
notes.
did it in Weekdone for a few months. And my manager, or our head of marketing at that point, kept setting me those goals of how many articles a month should we produce and distribute, of course. And in the end, he said something like, well, it doesn't matter what number I give you, you can do it. And it technically was true. Yeah. So after the system has sort of warmed up, you can do 1 article per day. I don't work on weekends, so let's say 20 articles per month. Yeah,
that's incredible. I think that's like a strong showcase to every startup out there trying to get their marketing jump started. And I don't know how. I don't have my marketing people. I don't have a PR agency.
Actually, one of those articles I wrote under this system is how this system works is in Weekdone's blog as well.
Really? Okay, I gotta find this afterwards. I'm very interested.
It's a little bit vague because I don't talk in there so detailed as I did in here. Yeah. But the general idea is in, I think if you Google writing content with darkest dungeon or something like that, you will find it.
I think even if I think about my personal experience where I've written not nearly as consistently as you have, but I've written quite a bit of stuff maybe over the last year, and I think it definitely when it's happening the best and when it's the most consistent in quality and in quantity is when there's 8 of them happening at once actually, and when you have your brain gets to switch topics, which I think we like to do sometimes, and
definitely because the system sort of takes away all this downtime you have, or sort of, fine, I finished an article, now I need a coffee break, then I should have lunch. Okay, now I need a new idea. I don't have it at the moment, so I'll have another coffee break. This time is all gone with this system.
And I think just they say the reason that Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg wear the same clothes every day is because it just gets rid of that one decision. And when you have 8 articles on the line, it's you don't have to make those small decisions about what am I writing next, what topic do I need to study, what's hot, what are the keywords, whatever.
Yeah, because when I'm writing using this system, I usually wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I go straight, I put myself some coffee, go straight to the computer. I have done my daily writing by 9 o'clock.
That's amazing. And you churn out an article a day. You startups out there, you need to hear this and understand. This man is churning out a piece of content by 9 o'clock in the morning. Most of you people aren't even up. I'm not even up until 9 o'clock in the morning most of the time.
Well, I'm very much a morning person.
Yeah.
So
I think everybody is. I think we just lie to ourselves.
Yeah, well, I think it depends on people. I had a discussion with one other content marketing a few years ago, and we were collaborating on an article, writing it together. Yeah. So what happened was that I woke up at 6, wrote something, got it done by 9, and then I got her response at 4 a.m. the next morning when she was working. And we were in the same time zone.
Okay,
so it wasn't this
she was a night owl and you were up in the morning. That's wild.
So basically she went to sleep and I woke up and got the notes half an hour later. So, and it sort of works.
What do you think? Do you have resources to learn that you kind of go to we've been talking for almost an hour already, I think. What time are we at? Yeah. So do you have resources where you go to learn stuff, other people that you like to read from? One of my personal favorites, more to watch and see what she's up to, is, at least locally, is Carola Carlson from Bolton, these places. She's got some great skills, I think.
She's one of my favorite writers in Estonia.
Yeah. Shout out to Carola.
I hope she doesn't see it. She actually doesn't know who I am. But I don't have many specific writers I like in startup scene. One of my when I read sort of this business text and stuff, I usually follow stuff on Entrepreneur, The Next Web.
Okay, you're really following publications.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
And I do this. I'm not gonna call them media monitoring because I don't. I do them only by myself, but I search for topics. I Google OKRs every morning to see what new things other people are writing.
Really, what page do you have to go to get past Weekdone? 18.
Second usually.
Okay, yeah.
But or leadership in general.
Yeah.
See, I follow some hashtags on Twitter.
Okay.
And until recently, I also was a avid fan of Medium, but now I think 99% of their content is behind paywall.
Yeah.
And
At least
while I don't mind paying for content, I don't think that it should be like that.
I mean, there's a lot of content on the internet for free. It's hard to justify buying stuff.
Well, this is a completely different issue because no content in the internet is free.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
In that way, I sort of like that Medium is asking money for it. But I'm running this sort of weekly roundup of best leadership articles.
Really?
Yeah, and in there I don't want to put stuff that is behind paywall. And this is actually a really interesting project I started about a year ago, which is basically during the week I spend